What is up, denizens of the interwebs? It's Arthur Chats here coming at you with another video, and this time we're doing our Agatha episode 5 review. I'm going to be completely honest, these reviews don't do very well, but it gives me something to talk about, and it'll allow for me to understand what's going on when I watch EFAP cover it later tonight. I'm using an Agatha wallpaper I just pulled off a wallpaper engine, because while I usually like to show off my own animated wallpapers, I felt like using one that I didn't create, because I'm not putting in the effort to make an Agatha wallpaper. Something's going on with the wallpaper, I have no idea what that is, but cool, I guess. So the last place we left off, Rio was officially part of the coven. Teen got injured, and Teen pissed Agatha off by accident. And of course, they're still all fighting like a bunch of old women, and they are being dragged into the third trial. We're going to see how that goes from here. So far, the show is still sitting at around like a 6.5 to 7 for me. It's not excellent, but it's also not terrible. My drink of choice this night, and let's hope I don't spill on my keyboard. It'll be all the way over there, so hopefully I don't, is Chaucer's Mead. It's a wine, so it's fitting for this wine aunt season. This makes the first bottle of wine I've actually finished, so good for me, I guess. Now, all I've heard about this episode is it's not very good, and that's in comparison to the rest of the show, so like, subscribe, and let's get into this, and hopefully it's bearable. Now, the one other thing I do know that's going to happen is they're going to have to make broomsticks, and it looks like they actually set up the logs that they use for those brooms right here, which is pretty nice of them to set it up for us, even though it means nothing to us currently. We see a fox crawl out of the hole that Rio Vidal crawled out of. And of course, remember the fox was, I believe, the first of the Salem 7 that we had seen chasing them down. There's a crow. The crow was the first, sorry. The fox was second, I believe. So somehow, that I'm sure they're not going to bother to explain, the Salem 7 managed to come through the portal that Rio Vidal took to get into the road. I'll praise the sound design a little bit. They're doing a good job with the Salem 7's noises, and there is a thumping heartbeat in the background that, of course, I always appreciate as a way to raise the stakes and make it a bit creepy. Now, I think I saw the first, 5 minutes of EFAP's coverage of episode 5 before I realized I shouldn't watch this right now and switched off of it. And one thing I do remember them pointing out is how did they get through, because we saw the door to the road close. Now, we never saw this door to the road close. So I'll have to excuse them where EFAP was very critical of them, because they got in not through the path that Agatha took, but through the path that Rio took that wasn't closed. So that plot hole is actually waved away. And to be clear, I'm not blaming EFAP's coverage for getting that wrong. It's not like they're setting that up at all. It's a very see it or you miss it scene. The Salem 7 are competently filmed, so I'll give them that credit. Alright, they do express that it was the summoning spell they left the door open for, but I don't know why they had to close it, because they never had to close the door before. It just automatically closed when they last opened it. Looks like it must have been that Rio deliberately kept the door open. And they all start bickering immediately, because of course that's what they do. They explain that the Salem 7 are a bunch of witches who basically sold their individuality as a way to be able to hunt down Agatha and get revenge on her for killing their mothers. Teen offers the idea of creating some broomsticks, and every other witch is like, that's a horrible idea. Except for Rio, who's in. Teen asks why they hate brooms so much, and Lilia goes, because brooms have been co-opted by the Holiday Industrial Complex. I'm so glad I poured this out. I drank too soon. She follows up by saying that they're a symbol of female domesticity. God. Please stop letting women write TV shows. Genelise has an almost funny criticism in the fact that the brooms are too basic. And the spell to create broomsticks requires you gifting another witch your broomstick in order for the magic to work, forcing them to work together. And of course, they just immediately jump to it. And somehow they all just know the spell to enchant broomsticks. And just look at how laughably bad this green screen is. Holy shit.
You got this. Oh.
Teen goes, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, when he hops on the broomstick. And Lilia goes, try praying to the Divine Mother, kiddo. Because, of course, they always have to find a chance to blame something on patriarchal values and push up the matriarchy. And then they all start turning upside down as the road tries to drive them back down, because it seems they all forgot that you can't leave the road. It's the basic rule they set up in episode 1, and I'm glad that at least the showrunners remember, but I would expect the witches to be competent enough to remember. God, I love Audrey Plaza so much. Okay, so while I've been praising the practical effects, the visual effects are so bad. Oh my god, it's still better than Thor Love and Thunder, but that's not much of it to prove it. And now they're in a house that looks straight out of the 80s, and they all look like they're the kids from friggin' Stranger Things, because why not? And for some reason, the trial set in the 80s is Agatha's, which is kind of a bummer because I was hoping it would be a much more timely thing set during the Salem witch trials, but any kind of hope for this show is unwarranted. They say that it's Agatha's because it's a blood moon, which is the time when the veil between the living and the dead is the thinnest, and the road throws a Ouija board at them. Sorry, a Ouija board. Sorry, a Luigi board. Sorry, a Ouija board. And then 30 minutes appear on their timer, and just once I kind of wish the in-game timer would be equal to the show's timer, so we can get a bit more tension out of this. They list the rules of the Ouija board. Don't use it alone. That's fine. Don't speak over each other. And of course, all of them start speaking over each other because that's the level of comedy we're at in the show. 3, don't taunt the spirits. And of course, everyone looks immediately at Agatha. And of course, that's going to be the point of this, obviously. 4 is do not ask about death. And 5 is always end your session with a goodbye. If watching B-tier horror movies will tell me anything, they're going to forget that last step. The next rule is do not under any circumstance remove your hand from the planchette. And if you do so, a spirit will be released. Sorry about the red flashing lights. There's a fire truck outside. Or an ambulance. Fun. I think it's for the absolute dumpster fire that this show is. And the fact that I'm going to definitely need some help when I'm done with it. Lily asks what the manual says in the back. And a teen tells her that says for ages 3 and up. I almost thought to chuckle. And they reveal they're communing with Mrs. Hart. And praise be to EFAP for pointing out that they accidentally spelled it like it said Mr. Shart. And I would much rather have a conversation with Mr. Shart. But are they forgetting that Mrs. Hart specifically said, do not call her that because that name brings up problems. Jen accidentally taunts her. The planchette rips away from Lily and she accidentally lets go. And now Agatha looks like she's being possessed. And Catherine Hahn does a really bad Mrs. Hart voice. But she's doing a pretty good job of facial acting, not moving her eyes in the slightest. So I will give her a little bit of praise for that one. At least one person remembered that she doesn't like the name Mrs. Hart. And of course, turns out it was all a ruse by Agatha to pretend to be Mrs. Hart, as a way for her to avoid actually engaging with the spirit. Which makes no sense why Agatha keeps actively avoiding doing the trials because she's done the road. She knows you can't cheat. This one plot hole that is the core to the show is driving me insane. They do the ritual properly this time, and it turns out the person who's actually with them, the spirit, is Death. And of course, we know that's Rio Vidal, so I was curious to know whether or not Rio Vidal is actually Death or will be possessed by Death. I assume it's still just that she is. They're all saying the letters over top of each other, which means they're talking over each other. Just follow one of your rules, please, show. And they ask Death what he wants, and he responds with the word punish. And the name just keeps spelling Agatha over and over again when asked who she wants to punish. And Agatha tells them to stop it. And they start talking over each other because they still can't follow the one rule. And Agatha actually does let go of the planchette this time. I really don't understand what's going on here. Agatha knows the rules. She knows how this game works. She's done this before, so she knows you can't cheat. So why does she keep doing stuff that would violate the rules of the game? It is just so frustrating because she's the one who knows how it's played and knows how to make it all work right. So why is she the one sabotaging it? It just makes no sense. It's a pain in the ass, and it's the biggest issue with the show other than the length and the fact that it's kind of boring. Jen says that the only way to move through the trial is to punish Agatha, and then the chaos in the room stops. Everyone else is on board with the exception of Wiccan and, of course, Agatha. And all the Wiccan cares about is we were getting along. We had unity. Shut the fuck up. And Jan says the most base thing possible. Familiars don't get a vote. And then somehow Agatha's vanished from underneath the noses of everyone. And Agatha reappears on the roof of the cabin in the gnarly demon form, as she's probably been possessed by, well, Death. Jan says she's faking it, and I just would love to know how Jan could say how she's faking it, given the fact that Agatha has no magic. And the ghost of Agatha's mom appears, revealing that's who is possessing Agatha. And her mom demands that they finish the road without Agatha. And Rio Vidal gets really defensive over this and says, we're not going to leave Agatha with you. No way. And Agatha asks her why she still hates her, and she goes, you were born evil. I should have killed you the moment you left my body. Which gets kudos for them not making an abortion thing, but still. And Jan has 100% gone turncoat and is 100% on board with abandoning Agatha. And Alice runs in and blasts Agatha with magic, which of course, as we all know what happens when you blast Agatha with magic, she absorbs it, so I'm sure this is gonna go excellent. And Lilia quickly says, Knight of Wands, I almost missed it. Let's check my handy dandy tarot deck, exactly what that card means. Now, I feel like I should quickly explain how a tarot deck works. I should have done that the first time they mentioned it, but I forgot to. Essentially, the way it works is that every single card in the tarot deck represents a card in a deck of cards. The 52 cards are the cards in the tarot deck, with exception of the major arcana, which are separate. The rest of the cards are minor. Every card Lilia has mentioned are all minor arcana so far. So it's one ace, well, instead of an ace, it's a page. So it's page up to 10, then the knight, queen, and king of a suit. The suits are wand, sword, heart, and pentacle, which that one just means money. So what is the Knight of Wands that we were mentioned? The Knight of Wands is a great warrior who defends the vulnerable, but can be hot-headed. The card may describe someone you know, or could indicate that you need to develop your warrior-like qualities to defend yourself or your loved ones. The card often signifies a new home or new direction in life. So the obvious read is that's just describing Alice's character, or the read is that someone else needs to stand up and play the defensive role and take up that kind of mantle. Based on where I see this scene going, I don't think that card makes any sense because it either explains something we already know about Alice's character or it's setting up something that isn't going to make sense logically in the payoff. Also, I find it really weird that none of the other witches pick up on the tarot cards that she's saying. The magic blast successfully kicks Agatha's mom out of her body, and Agatha starts harnessing the power. I actually do like the visual effects here. They don't look terrible. As she's absorbing Alice's power force, the Ouija board starts going crazy again. The Ouija board spells Nicholas Scratch, and now their time's almost up. Him saying Nicholas Scratch successfully breaks her from absorbing Alice, which has the baby's voice go, Mama, stop. Of course, that must mean Nicholas Scratch is the name of Agatha's son. Wiccan then puts it on goodbye, and the trial ends. And Alice is highly decrepit. And they all turn on Agatha, even though it's very evident that Agatha was not in control of herself when she absorbed the powers, because she has no idea what happened. And Agatha leaves the room as quickly as she can, and she's clearly having a panic attack. But now she possesses Alice's magic. Wiccan asks her, how could you do this? She goes, I couldn't control it. He goes, don't lie to me. And she goes, I'm not. He goes, all you wanted was your power from the beginning. Jen walks up and says, of course. Agatha goes, that's not what it's about. And Jen goes, of course it is. That's what it's always been about for all of us. Jen is a total bitch, and I cannot wait for her to die. I wish she died instead of Alice. That would have been much more fun to have watched. Because while Alice is annoying, she at least has some heart and has some good scenes. And she actually offers something to the team. We're almost getting some good character development with Agatha, and I hope we actually get some. Now, I think the implication of the Knight of Wands that we were given is that Agatha is going to have to do the same thing that Alice did and sacrifice her life to save the party. And that's going to happen later in the show. I could just be reading into it because I tend to give the show more credit than it's due. Since we do not get a payoff of the previous tarot card we were read yet, I doubt we're going to get a payoff of this one. Tina asks, so what, is that what it means to be a witch? Killing other people for your own agenda? Well, not for me. And this causes Agatha to start laughing. And she whispers to him, are you sure? And then she goes, you're so much like your mother. Which begs the question, how does she know that Teen is Scarlet Witch's mom? What gave her that knowledge? And we see Wiccan starting to flicker with blue energy. And we see the two other witches, Lilia and Jen, walk up and grab her with blue energy in their eyes. And they throw Agatha into the tar substance that was pulling Mrs. Harden in the first episode. And Agatha gets pulled under. Now the question is, where's Rio in all of this? And then Wiccan throws the other two witches into the mud. I'm starting to really like him as a character now. And we are shown confirmation that he is, in fact, Wiccan. At least for those who know who Wiccan is. Not that anyone watching the show does. Okay, I'm done. Fuck this. Oh, as soon as it ends, they start playing Billie Eilish, You Should See Me in a Crown. Why the fuck do they have to ruin anything that's even slightly decent? And of course, there's still 6 minutes left in the episode for the end credits. Alright, Agatha along. Is it a win? Is it a loss? Why am I asking? We all already know the answer. It's a waste. Okay, this episode almost had good things in it. I will say, I didn't feel the length nearly as much as I usually do. It felt like it went by pretty fast for me. This episode actually had stuff happening, so I didn't really feel the length of the show. But nothing much of value was actually going on at all. It was still kind of wasteful and not really important. And the thing is, that pisses me off so much, is there's a story. There is a story, and it is a good story. There is an actually good story buried underneath this slop. So where is it? Why is it that there's a good story clearly written, but Jacques Schaefer cannot show us the good story? I'm feeling it. I'm reading it. I can see the beats of a quality story, and the fact that they're just incompetent and utterly incapable of providing us with this story is honestly driving me kind of insane. This episode ranks along the other ones, where I'm going to give it probably a 6.5 out of 10, because it has those serviceable beats, but the fact that it is that close to being able to actually be good, the fact that they have some really good character stuff going on, especially with Agatha. I don't know what just happened in my background, but there's some really cool stuff going on with Agatha, going on deeper within her. Alice had some interesting beats. Lilia and the tarot cards are kind of interesting. If they did something with it, Rio Vidal is an interesting character if they just did something. This is 5 episodes of nothing happening. They're planting seeds that will never grow. They're planting roasted chestnuts, expecting them to still be viable. It's almost like what happens when a wine-obsessed cat lady finally meets a man and finds out that she's gone dry. It honestly annoys me just how close they are to actually make something good. Because if this show was good, and I'm going to say it, if this show was good, that would be a betterment for everyone. Hands down, good shows hurt no one. But they're not capable of it. They're trying, they're clearly just not capable of making a quality show. And then, of course, whenever they interject a pop song at the end of a show, it just immediately takes me out and feels like the episode is a complete waste, especially when it's such a popular show, such as You Should See Me in a Crown. That song is used everywhere, and it doesn't fit the setting. Oh, he's got a crown on, so we gotta play the pop song that's 5 years old. It's such a TikTok brain mentality that's so tired in Hollywood. So I understand that I'm a bit more positive on this show than most other reviewers. I'm far more positive than WW Pro, more positive than Disbrew, and more positive than EVAP. This show has problems, and a lot of them, and they piss me off because they could have been fixed if you just had a quality editor or a showrunner. It takes 2 things to make this show more bearable. First off, you cut the length by 20 minutes each episode. You reduce the length of each episode to a 20-minute episode because there's so much wasted time. And then number 2, you stop making every character an insufferable bitch. Even the ones you're supposed to like teen, are insufferable. The only character who I actually have any interest in is Agatha, which I know is a little bit weird given how bad it all is, but Catherine Hahn has that personality, and I really like this stuff hidden about her son. You could really do something of a witch being forced to realize her wrongs. But the problem is, during the time, I need someone else to be invested in, and there's just no one there. I wouldn't care if all of them died. And while I do kind of want to see if they actually pay anything off, I know for a fact they aren't because they never do in these Disney shows. The first few episodes are always the best, and that continues to be the case. And the last episode is always a waste of potential. Like I said, I hope I'm wrong. But honestly, until I'm shown a reason to think I'm wrong, I have no reason to. And I'm going to stick with this show, even though it gets me no views. But hey, EVAP, I know you only had 4 people on to do your Agatha review, so if you ever need anyone, Mahler, Rags, ever need someone to discuss Agatha, I have the diversity quotas that you guys need, so hit me up. I'm just kidding. Let me know down in the comments if you have any interest in Agatha all along, and I will see you guys on the next one.